Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Arnie Meets. And today it is the one and only Rachel. Hello.
Hi, Arnie. How you doing?
Wow, great to talk to you. This is so nice. It's 2023, and we are at International Women's Day, and you are an amazing, well-respected, and esteemed friend and colleague in customs and global trade. And you happen to be a woman. And so how perfect for me to figure out what International Women's Day means in the context of customs and global trade by asking you about it.
Oh, thank you for that introduction, Arnie. That is a tough one to live up to, but I'm looking forward to our chat.
So we have so many things to talk about today.
Okay.
We want to talk and unlock this a little bit. I mean, do we still in 2023 need to talk about the role of women in society, and especially in customs and global trade? We want to talk about how women are perceived in a consulting role or in an in-company role as a customs professional. We want to talk about women that trade globally, that want to trade globally. They're in one part of the world and they want to send their products to another part of the world, how difficult that is or isn't. I'm interested in your view. And then, of course, the role of customs and global trade policy making, and governance as regards women. You know, is there a role for customs and global trade professional officials and policy? So lots to talk about. And I'm so excited that you're willing to come on.
Oh, thank you. I've you know me, I've always got a lot to say. So hopefully my opinions will count today.
Yeah. Oh, they do, for sure. So for those few people that don't know who you are, why don't you tell us a little bit about you?
Okay, so my name's Rachel Stockton, and I've been involved in international trade for, must be a good 25 plus years. I've worked for several major companies, and I've been running my own business now for just under 4 years. It will be 4 years next month.
Cool.
It was a big leap. You know, you've been with a company for a long time and you suddenly think, I'm ready to try something different. And I made the decision to go out on my own rather than go and work for another business. Tough at first, you know, trying to get known. That was the hardest part. And then just as I was thinking this isn't going to work, suddenly things opened up, and touch wood, I haven't looked back. Genuinely haven't looked back, and it's gone from good to better. So
you're a customs entrepreneur, so to speak?
To a point, yes. I am a business owner, yes. And I have some very good staff who help me as well. Absolutely brilliant staff, and I couldn't do it without them.
Nice. So how did you get into customs and global trade then?
Right, it's a bit of a boring story, but I'm going to tell you it anyway. So I started out, I was working for a multinational company who weren't multinational then. They were getting bigger and decided to start importing their own goods. I was employed at the time as a buying administrator, so part of my job was to check the freight forwarders' invoices against the system figures. And there was the first 4 or 5, there was a figure on there. I could not work it out. It didn't fit with anything that was on the systems. So I phoned up the freight forwarder and said, look, I can't clear these for payment. What is this charge? And that's when I found out it was the duty charge. Nobody thought about the duty charge. So I then asked them, well, how do I find out about this duty charge? And they mentioned the UK tariff. So I spent the rest of the afternoon online trying to find details on the duty tariff. Now, bear in mind, this is approximately 25 plus years ago. The internet was in its infancy. There wasn't the information available there is now. So it took a while, but I eventually worked it out, and I actually got the company some money back because the product I was looking at was actually a badminton racket, which at the time was 2.7% duty, and they'd been customs cleared as a tennis racket at 4.7% duty. that was the duty at the time. It's obviously different now. So from there, it then piqued my interest. How does this all affect? Then learned about countries of origin, GSPs, and that was where the story started from.
Yeah, wow. That's a great story actually to tell, and how you ease your way into customs without even accidentally, almost, we could say.
It was accidental. It was just because I asked a question, what is that charge? Rather than just say, I'll clear it. I couldn't. And that's how it all started. It was not something I went out to do, but probably the best thing I've ever discovered, in my opinion. I'm very lucky. I get to do what I like.
And what a nice segue to get into the heart of the matter that we're discussing here.
Yep.
So you've been starting to ask questions some 25 years ago as a woman. Now, it feels really odd to say that as a woman, but this is the topic of the conversation. So tell us, reflecting back on these years, how has it been like to work in customs and global trade as a woman and ask these questions, I suppose, also to men? These maybe probing questions, and questions that will, unveil that possibly you haven't quite done it so well as you could have done. And for you to say that to men some 20 years ago, was that all right?
No, is the simple answer. Back then, it was very male-orientated business. Things have changed an awful lot, up until today. But back then, it was majority men that dealt with everything. And what was also hard was not the fact that I was a woman. That did play a part, but also the fact that because I'd asked the questions for help, then they were like, oh, so now you're an expert. No, I'm not an expert, but I am able to read, and this is what I believe it should be. So I argued back, but no, it was definitely very male orientated then. But nowadays, I think if anything, I deal with more women, in freight forwarding and that than I do men.
Yeah, same experience here actually. Looks like in companies, the most efficient people.
Go on, you can say it.
Okay, let's be careful here. We are on record after all.
Yes, I know.
So, but it is true. I mean, where I worked, those that were really making changes and those that were really efficient and effective, the leaders that I worked with in my career, all women. Yes. And not only customs, but global trade and trade automation, also women. And so that's why we're doing this, also to understand, what does International Women's Day mean for the profession of customs and global trade? So today then, if you've said it was difficult in the past, do you still think today that customs and global trade is a man's world? Doesn't seem like it, from what I heard.
In my opinion, and this is, like I say, my opinion, I don't think it is anywhere near a man's world as it used to be, especially in the UK. I deal with a lot more women, and when I do deal with the men, they treat me with respect and they value my opinion. So I think, if anything, we're on an equal footing.
Nice.
In my opinion.
How good to hear, huh? How good.
Yeah.
What a good experience to have.
Yep.
So you work with a lot of global businesses. So not only businesses in the UK, yes, of course, there are also small and medium enterprises, but thinking about the global businesses that you've worked for, you had the pleasure to work with. What's the overall view that you experience when it comes to gender, when it comes to customs and gender, global trade corporations and gender? What's your take on that?
I think in most countries now, women are treated as equals. What I do find is that there are certain countries, and I'm not going to name them, there are certain countries where they still defer to the man rather than the woman. So, for example, I was working with a colleague and we had to go to a meeting. It was myself that was providing the information, but they kept deferring to him rather than to me, who was actually speaking. I found that extremely frustrating, and I will say in this day and age, because like I say, in most countries now, I'm treated as an equal, and it was, it took a bit to bite my tongue and not bark. if you know what I mean.
Yeah. And you know, sometimes it is the barking that's necessary, and sometimes it's, you know,
Unfortunately, you can't.
yes. Okay, so your experience is actually now much better than it may have been in the past, with some experience of problematic exchanges that you described. Now, so it looks to me like in customs and trade and consultancy right now, but also previously in your corporate life, things have gotten quite a lot better. But of course, you hear the reports, and you know actually that besides the customs profession, for women that trade globally, so we're not talking about the customs advisor or the customs professional in a multinational company or a company, but we're talking about the female entrepreneur that has a product that is ready to go global, that is, and she may not live in the parts of the world that we live in, but in other parts. And we hear things like there's discrimination in the way money is given out, where the male counterparts, the male entrepreneurs, the men that want to trade globally are preferred. There seems to be a digital divide between men and women. There's often a lack of knowledge in customs and trade procedure when it comes to women wanting to trade across borders. And there's a general belief that all of these things taken together still today make it so much more harder for women to clear customs and trade globally with success. Would you, from what you've seen and the people you've spoken to, would you agree with the statement? And if yes, what should be done? How should it be tackled?
Right. So some of that I agree with, some I don't. So from the digital divide, I don't think it's there as much as it used to be. I think that is very rapidly disappearing. From the disbursement of money, I think a lot of it comes down to, believe it or not, confidence, not necessarily gender, but confidence. I find, and I'm going to sound so sexist myself here, I find men are a lot more confident in the way they present things than some women. And I include myself in that. When I first started out, I used to be so painfully shy. I know you wouldn't believe it now, but I was so painfully shy. Whether it's a case of age or experience that has made me more confident, I don't know. And I think that is a major part in obtaining that money. There are still cases where men will be given the money over the women for various reasons. But on the learning, the knowledge, I think everybody should take care of themselves on that. So from my point of view, I was very lucky. I was able to afford to put myself through training. I paid for all my training once I realized it was what I wanted to get into. I paid for all my training. You know, we went through some of the training together. And then what I would say is, if you can't afford to pay for the training and you can't get sponsorship, look around. There is so much more information available on the internet now than there was many years ago. And it's good information as well. And don't just go to one source, you have to go to loads. The other thing is, there are places where people don't have their own computers, they don't have their own mobile phones. I understand that. So maybe look at the local library. They're normally free. So you can use the equipment there and get the knowledge there. The other thing, and again, this comes down to confidence. People who want to learn, maybe go to a local business that maybe does the customs thing, if it's the area that you want to get into, and ask them if they will help you attain a learning or some knowledge. One of the other areas, I think, both in the UK and abroad, where women can get help is in the UK through the Department of International Trade. So they can help women, you know, look for areas for their businesses. They also may be able to have networking events, if they don't already have them, networking events that are specifically for women. And across the world, the DIT could help by having networking events for women in their embassies. As I mentioned, like myself, a lot of women are nervous when first starting out down a different path for them. And this would give them sort of like a safe space where they're just dealing with other women and can bounce their ideas off of other women, deal with other women, do business with other women, and be put into contact with other women around the world.
Yeah, and that might be a great idea, right? So this is
Yeah.
something very tangible, and I think great advice of what governments can do to help out, I guess.
Absolutely.
Speaking of governments, the final point I wanted to cover with you is actually the role of the government, or better said, policy. We have customs policy, we have global trade promotion policy. Do we have a role there specifically for women, or do we say customs is goods, therefore women affairs are not customs affairs? So does customs, in your opinion, have or should have a role when it comes to promoting women in customs, either in administration or as a client, as an actor importing or exporting?
My honest opinion is I think UK customs are going above and beyond to help women, that both internally and externally. I think they do a lot to encourage more women into customs and border force and things like that. So I don't think the UK customs, in my opinion, can do a lot more to help. Around the world, I do believe there could be a lot more help for women to get involved with customs and their regimes. But that would be a country level. And I think people like the World Trade Organization and the UN are trying to promote women internationally. I really do believe in their own way, they are trying to attain help on promoting women around the world. But from a UK point of view, I think they're doing everything they can at the moment to try and encourage women into the business and to help encourage them to trade internationally as well. In fact, if anything, I don't think they see male and female anymore. You're just a client to them.
Well, which is ideal, right? So,
yeah.
Great. Okay, cool. Well, that was insightful. Thank you so much for your views. And you know, it's not every day that people decide to come on, be on record, and have this published around the world. So it really means the world to not only me, but also the people that are watching this. And they really appreciate the fact that, you know, people like yourself come out and say, hey, this is my view, and there we go. Because that in itself takes quite a lot of guts.
Yeah, because it is my view. Other people will have a completely different view, which is they're entitled to.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, look, it's been fascinating to talk to you. I'll
Thank you.
give the final words, if you want, about International Customs Day and the roles of women in customs to you. Is there one message in particular that you want the people watching this video to take away that you want to make? Then now is a good time.
As a woman, and if you're the people that are listening, if you're thinking about doing it, don't think, just do it. Give it a go. The help is there, and the only people who will hold you back is yourself. Just go for it.
Wow, that's an inspiring words. And on that note, Rachel, it's been such a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you for taking the time, and I hope you're going to come on again, because there's so much more we need to discover and unlock in the world of customs, from the policy, the geeky stuff, to you know, lots of things that happen as your career progresses. So much to unpack here. So in the future, we got a lot to talk about. So thank you once again for coming on.
Thanks, Arnie, and I will be back. Thank you.
Bye.